Okay, everyone, so now we're going to go about adding a few more elements to our page, right? So we've got our single, I'm going to actually go ahead and get rid of this border, right? So right now this is how my page looks, right? But I don't really want that border there. I just was doing that for demonstration purposes. So I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to go ahead and add back, and I can leave that tag there just empty. It doesn't hurt anything to be there. And I'm going to actually go ahead and say, do width 400 pixels, right? And there we go. Okay, so that's a little bit better, right? Not amazing, not fantastic, but not bad. And if I wanted to add more elements, it's very simple, right? I can actually just take this entire container, right? I'm going to copy the whole thing. I'm just going to paste it below here, right? And you'll see that just by doing that, right, doubles the entry. So I can come to my next, whatever the next thing is that I want to include. Let's see about this one. Again, international one. So again, I can just take this material and I can copy and paste it into my page. So this is the URL. Right? So we know href means URL. I'm going to do understand the crisis of migrants in Europe in charts, graphs, and videos. Okay, so I'm going to put this title in here. All right. Looks good. So the thing that I want to watch out for is I would just want to make sure in doing this that I don't somehow damage, I don't want to delete, if I were to delete, so here's an example, right? As long as I don't lose any of my special characters here, everything is fine. So I can come back here and reload it, and you can see, look, there's the, the headline is changed, the link is correct. Now, here's an example. Let's say I was editing something and just by accident, I lost that one thing. One little thing, right? All of a sudden this goes wonky, right? So that was, how that one reacted. If I were to sort of accidentally lose the end of the div, that's a little less visible. The reality is that browsers are actually getting better at handling these errors, but it is pretty easy to make a mistake, that's one character that starts to screw things up, right? Oh, why doesn't this match? Well, because I lost that, I lost that quotation mark, right? So it's not as much of a disaster as it might be, right? It doesn't totally destroy things at the moment. But you can see that these errors do have little side effects, and as we start to get more, I'm going to say efficient. Shut up. As you start to get more efficient, then the consequences of small errors will look bigger. Again, the errors themselves are no larger, right? So we shouldn't let that stop us. It's going to serve an important purpose. So I'm now going to replace. Let's pick an image. Actually, I'll use, again, the image from here. So I'm going to say copy image address. I can actually just put it right in here. Okay, and there we go. Okay, so this all seems well and good. Do have a little bit of a weirdness here because you see how this is extending, and sure, if I, scrunch up the page, then it collapses. But I might want to adjust that. I might want to put some spacing around some of this. It's kind of rammed up against the left-hand side. So we see that there's a bunch of different. Can I just say never translate this side? There we go. Thank you very much, Chrome. So this is all well and good, but there is kind of a problem, right? Because I can go along and I can happily add as many more elements as I like. For your assignment, you're going to do 3, at least 3. But what if I change my mind, right? So one of the things that we generally look for, and if we go to, let's just go to, So one thing that we notice about design is that there's often consistency, right? So we can see the way that Reuters, for example, treats images and headlines, right? All of these headlines are the same size, they're the same font. There's consistency, right? It helps us read as we're, from this coming week's reading. Typography, laying things out in a consistent way is really useful to us. But so the problem is, what if I have been working on my design and I don't know, all of a sudden I decide, or say a designer somewhere says, well, wait a second, we're going to change this. We want all of our fonts to now be sans serif, right? So we have this sort of New York Timesy looking font, but what if we decide we want fonts to be, I don't know, what's a sans serif font? Let's say we want them to be Arial, right? Okay, well that's fine. Except that in order to change that now, how many... This is getting very frustrating. I might just change this altogether. It's a severe limitation. Does not understand my never translate this site. It's somehow failing. Anyhow, it changed this one, but not this one, right? So, okay, if I have two items, then I have to go in and I have to say, well, I want font family, Arial, and I can do this, right? But it isn't very efficient. It increases the chances that I'm going to make a mistake. It's going to increase the chances that I overlook something, which is why, for the most part, we actually don't apply styles this way, okay? So we actually, in practice, almost never, in fact, we will never actually apply styles directly to an element. Instead, we use what are called classes. Okay, so instead of doing an individual style tag on each of these divs, what I can do is I can create a style section in my head, in the head portion of my web page. And what I can do is I can say, look, all of the titles I want to look a certain way. So I indicate that this is the classes. So I indicate that it's a quote-unquote class, right, which is a type of object of which there will be many instances, right? So I know there's going to be many titles on my page and I want them all formatted the same way, so I can create a class called title. And in that, I can say, look, I want the font family to be, I want the font size to be 24 pixels, and I want the font family to be Arial, and I want the color, well, the color's not really going to do much of this, so I'll just leave that out, right? And now what I can do is, instead of having this style element here, I can just say class equals title. And anything that has the title class applied, class equals title, okay, is going to look and feel the same way. So as I'm making things that I know are going to be a title, right? I know title is going to go in there. I can give them the class title, and you see that it is changing. It's now changed both of them. But let's say I change my mind again and I decide, well, actually, I also want them to be bold. So I can say font style, or let's say italic, just for kicks, right? Now, it automatically applies to both of them. Okay, so what we're moving towards here is what is known as cascading style sheets, and it's a way of collecting all of the similar styles. It's a way of kind of classifying, hence the term class, pieces of our web page according to what they are or what they contain. Talk about our image situation here. So let's say, just for the sake of things, that we want to make sure that we have kind of a column. So we want to make sure that our titles wrap if they go beyond a certain width, and that our images always fit inside that that width, right? We want a nice even looking column rather than this sort of random bits and bobs everywhere. So the way that we're going to do that is through a combination of a couple of things. So one is that we see this dot title. So dot in a style sheet signifies a class. I can also, by simply doing this, right, using the name of a tag, an existing HTML tag, I can apply a style again to all of that type of tag. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to apply to all of my images, I'm going to say the maximum width of this image is going to be quote unquote 100%. What does 100% mean? It means 100% of the width of the container of that image. Okay, so what that's going to let me do is ensure that the image doesn't go outside the bounds of the div container that it's in. Now, for this part, I don't actually necessarily need to apply it directly to the div that contains the image. What I want to do, because I want to make sure that like both the headline itself, right, and the image are the same width. So I'm going to create a class that applies to the div that contains my title and my image. And so in this case, I'm going to say class, I'm just going to call it article container, right? So you can see the other thing here that I'm starting to do is I am using descriptive class names. This is really, really important. Everything that we do, whether we're creating class names, every time we make something up, and I can make up whatever class name I want because up here is where I'm going to give it meaning, right? It's kind of like defining your own words. I want it to be descriptive. That's going to help me keep track of my code, which, as you can already see, is very quickly going to get kind of complex. So in this case, I'm going to say article container, I'm going to say width. In this case, let's do 400 pixels and see how that works. Now, to make sure that this is working, I also want to put article container on the other one, or to confirm whether it's working, I should say. Let's see about this. So let's see how this did. Aha! So now we're starting to get some good looking, everything looks organized, it's kind of fit to the right size. I don't have to, and if I want to add another element to this, I can just go ahead and add another div with the class article container. And again, what happens if I decide I want them to be wider? No big deal. I just change it to 600 pixels, and all of a sudden there I go, right? So this is kind of the basics of working with HTML and CSS. So CSS, cascading style sheets, refers to the stuff that's happening inside these style tags. Now, we haven't yet gotten to the sheets part. We will do that probably before next week. We're going to look at the quote-unquote cascading style sheets. But the idea here is basically to think about how we can get content onto a page, how we can give it some style and organization, as well as a little bit of functionality, essentially the functionality that is built into HTML and CSS itself. Looking ahead, we're going to start talking about JavaScript object notation, which is a data type, and it's a way of just storing content separate from the structure of our web page. So one of the challenges we have here is that we have this structure of divs and they have classes and all of this style and everything, but we're having to manually enter our content. And what we want is we want to always do what we can to minimize the errors that can be introduced. So I want to make sure that as the content of my web page is changing, like if I want to change the links or add an element, I don't run the risk of actually breaking the rest of the page. To do that, we're going to need to use JavaScript, but the first thing we'll do is we'll talk about JavaScript object notation in class and how to translate what we have here into that type of document. So that's all for this week. I look forward to seeing you all in class. If you have questions about the video, please feel free to post them on Piazza beforehand. I'm happy to answer anything that you like. All right, see you soon.